Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Podcast. It's a show where each week we'll sit down with Vincent Daly to get his thoughts on the latest movies he's been watching, both older films and new releases. And don't worry, there's no spoilers. Vince will give a brief review of the movie, share some thoughts, and of course, then rate the film. The Daily Ratings show is fair, honest, and most importantly, they're consistent. On today's show, Vince will be rating and reviewing The Virgin Suicides, Lost in Translation, Marie Antoinette, Somewhere, and we have newly released Priscilla, all 5 films directed by Sophia Coppola. So it's a Coppola study, folks. It's going to be a great show. Stay tuned and enjoy. Vincent Daly, how we doing, buddy?
Tom, how's it going?
So going okay on this side of the table. How was your Sophia week?
Oh, you know, the feminine charm. These are some soft movies, some pink movies. It was a week I was kind of looking forward to and dreading at the same time. I like doing any kind of week that I can do 5 movies from the same director. Sophia, yes. Though, I did kind of have my mind made up a little bit on her directing style. So I was dreading a little bit, just, I don't know, coming in with a predisposition or anything.
When was the last time you paid attention to her? Like, what was the last film you watched of hers?
Probably one of the multiple rewatches of Lost in Translation.
Yeah, that's such a classic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
so.
I'm a little bit, I've always known the name and known she was like a big name in Hollywood.
Sure.
I don't know. Her films, I haven't watched too many of them. I remember the names of them when they came out. Mm-hmm. Remember Marie Antoinette and Kirsten Dunst is on the scene a little bit again.
Yep.
But other than that, and Lost in Translation, you know, I haven't known too much. I was excited for Priscilla. I didn't get a chance to watch it.
Okay.
We'll see if I want to watch it after your take on it. But yeah, I'm glad you did this week because there was a little bit of a soft week as far as new entries. Because last week I was like, okay, what do you think for next week? And
right.
Because you were the one who kind of came up with Sophia Week.
Yeah. But there was really nothing else to it. Not that Priscilla is even that big of a release, I think, even in comparison to a lot of what A24 has been releasing this year.
Right.
But there wasn't really anything. Taylor Swift is still dominating.
She had Five Nights at Freddy's as well.
Yeah.
Poor Killers.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, poor everything, honestly. I mean, to the point that I was in a theater for Priscilla, and 2 doors down, I heard, very clearly, all of the sing-along, all of...
Yeah, that's how it was for Killers of the Flower Moon, too.
Yeah.
Very quiet movie to be butted up against.
Yeah.
Tay-Tay.
And especially like the dancing and what's going on in these Taylor Swift showings.
Right, the children.
Right.
In the theaters, you mean?
I took a peek. Sometimes it's adults. Some adults doing some kumbaya, they're dancing in a circle. I don't know what the hell. But yeah, I think that was louder than the movie itself, like the commotion.
Yeah, because there was no way you saw this in a decent theater. Or they didn't put this in the goods, like the good screens.
Yeah, no, they didn't. But it was next to the IMAX theaters that Swift would have been.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, well, let's get into right away. This is definitely the one I'm least was least aware of.
Oh, really?
With her, and I didn't realize. Yeah, because when you had switched this one for Bling Ring, I just naturally thought it was a newer movie. Didn't find out it was 99 then.
Yep.
But then I do remember the name, and people reference it sometimes, and I don't know what it means or what it's.
Yeah, it's a pretty big opening for. Talk about a feature debut of for a director. This is a pretty big film, and I think the only reason why Bling Ring was in the consideration was I didn't want such an early lean to studying her career, but that's really where the hits are at.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get into it. This is The Virgin Suicides back in 1999, and What do we get? How'd you like it?
I liked it quite a bit. I haven't seen this film before, folks. I felt the early spin to her to this Sophia Coppola episode. It had the more recognizable titles this way. Apparently not. It's like I had no idea. And for a writer-director combo, I wanted to see how she first rose to fame. Besides the name, besides her father, I wanted to see what was the electricity that came with her. More than most directors, this first film really sets a template for Sophia in a great way, mainly for her aesthetic, which kind of how I opened up the episode, drips in feminine charm, drips in soft palettes and a tone that is very unique and very much just Sophia's. So it's actually surprising how much this first film really captures the template for what she will do moving forward then. For a feature debut, The Virgin Suicides is... well, it's really in the name, folks. Set in the 70s, pristine middle-class suburbia is disrupted by a string of suicide attempts. Most disturbing of all, they are centered around a group of teenage girls in a five-sister family. We view this story through a group of classmates that become obsessed with the sisters, both romantically and morbidly, as we see the last days of their teenage lives flare out. The tone of the film, well, maybe not the tone of the film, but the tone of the narration kind of has a what's the Stephen King film that they grow up? We covered it on the podcast. No.
Oh, Stand By Me.
Yeah, Stand By Me. And this has kind of a Stand By Me aspect in the narration. What did we leave behind in childhood kind of thing. What's not apparent, though, in that title is the tone the film takes. Believe it or not, I would really consider this a dark comedy of sorts, mostly for how parental figures are handled and kind of an atypical late 90s cynical narration that is played over this. But it's also a deeply psychological film. We're really placed in... I don't know. It's an awkward period for all of the characters' lives, and a psychological film that pairs great with romantic high school tones. The teenage experience is presented as a hazy dream. Our characters kind of just roam through it and exist in this time period where these suicides are on the lips of every person in the neighborhood, and also being set in kind of mid-70s. There's also nothing to talk about, so it's like these concepts of gossip, these concepts of eyes on you and expectations. It all blends together.
A bit of a bridge with Killers of the Flower Moon vibes.
yeah, maybe.
That's what I'm picking up.
Certainly, the connect the dots is that the wake of Scorsese. And then everyone in the 90s just making a Scorsese-like. So definitely some vibes there. But it's slightly surreal, which was what I enjoyed the most about it. We'll talk a lot about style, tone, and Sophia's kind of stylistic vision in nearly every one of these films, because it really is her hallmark. But when it comes to it, what's impressive about The Virgin Suicides is it's right here. She captures it right away. And I feel like that comes with, again, only with a writer-director. She knows exactly what she wants to achieve with this experience. So, and I really did appreciate this spin to, again, kind of a slightly dark comedy, slightly psychological romance. I appreciated it because it was the grim aftermath that the characters exist in that turns that dream into kind of a real nightmare. Again, it's just very interesting. Nothing like it really done in '99. I just found a lot of value in watching this film in present time.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really great supporting cast here. We get a brief Danny DeVito. James Woods is being the dad is my favorite. It's interesting. James Woods specifically as well. He has a role that is you think you have him pinned down, and then like something is flared in the performance that you suddenly like. I don't know if I really do have this pinned down. It's interesting.
That's good that things aren't straightforward with her, which is cool.
No,
and she's very good at setting a vibe, or
yes.
just because I'm just thinking of Lost Translation and just the feeling of that film gives off a little bit.
Yeah.
So she's good. She's not like she's not a lightweight in any way.
No.
You know, she definitely has built a name of herself. So that's cool that her
Absolutely.
seeds go all the way back.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with this cast in '99, as a feature debut, this is admittedly only one you get by being a Coppola, which I think if this came out today would have the internet crying nepo baby or whatever, the nepotism type of critique going on. But I think it pays off here. While other films, this critique might be worth considering, I think for here it just hits so well, and that really kind of captures my feelings on a lot of the good side of her films. That the style, what pays off. Is that style always substance? No. Does that style always have teeth or bite? No. But sometimes the style is worth it in itself, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what Sophia really knocks out of the park here, folks. I can say her trademark, without a doubt, is her style and her tone. I would compare this, or compare her work here to a little bit of a Wes Anderson vibe, not because they look similar at all, but rather how her style becomes a vehicle for the concept of her movie and story. Where a Wes Anderson film you can spot a mile away, regardless of what the actual story is concerning with.
Absolutely.
In just the same way, I feel like Sophia fits in that type of ballpark or that type of vibe. You can really spot her type of movie because of how it feels, not necessarily the subject matter of it. This starts by separating itself a little in its 1970s high school setting, and feels unique in '99, which what we covered so much, the dominant John Hughes style. This is in no way your average like high school romance film, which is good. And so much is tuned into the mood of the film. Every scene feels so soft and innocent, and it's as if the whole experience was wrapped in this faded pink felt. And why I say faded is, again, the reality of what is happening in the story is really quite grim. But it's still kind of wrapped up together, and that is something that we'll absolutely return to for Priscilla, for the new release this week, because it flirts the same line of being almost a bubbly romance, but something more menacing is underneath.
She's able to keep an innocence in the film.
Yes.
That's kind of sweet and charming in its own way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll admit, folks, what actually plays out in the story feels a bit amateur, and that's really because it is. This very well may be a strong case for style over substance, which is a critique for some of these films. Folks, if you only knew how much I would be saying that watching all of these films. I mean, wow. It really is style over substance in a bad way for some of these. But I'm happy to say it is style done right here, and so much of Sophia's voice can be felt in the film that is well worth your time. We're going to go ahead and give The Virgin Suicides, 1999, a 75.
Okay, all right, 75. Just a good movie there.
Absolutely.
A little surprising.
I think
But
you think it's surprising that it's that
in a good way. Yeah,
sure.
exactly right.
Yeah.
For her first major film, like you said.
Yeah.
But, okay, The Virgin Suicides. Like I said, I did know the name, and I know people reference it. Not
Young
as
Kirsten
much
Dunst.
anymore.
Yeah.
Was Kirsten Dunst, was she in something before this that made her name? Or was this like, did this bring her onto the scene, and then this is what propelled her to get the
I think Kirsten
Spider-Man
Dunst's
role?
earliest was no, I think it was a interview with a vampire, I want to say.
Okay, something like that? Yeah.
some sort of vampire story.
Okay.
Yeah.
But still, this came out in 99 because she goes from here and then she does the Spider-Mans.
Really, right away.
Well, pretty much because Spider-Man was 2001.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or 2000 or something like that. I mean, she's on fire right here.
Then
she goes away.
Right, and
disappears.
we'll see kind of in Marie Antoinette the same concept that she's at her peak and then she kind of goes away.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, all right. So that's 75% with The Virgin Suicides. Let's go on with 2003's Lost in Translation. I think that a lot of people know this film, have seen it, and I feel like it's for as long as like I've been aware of films or like old enough to like comprehend stuff or what's going on.
Sure.
And this has always been a known, liked, indie, almost art kind of film. And I always thought it was like older. I always thought this was 99 or like 2001.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's 2003. It's still a very young Scarlett ScarJo.
Yes.
She's 19?
We covered Ghost World on a few episodes back of the podcast, and still just as young, and you can tell in her voice that it's the gravelly voice that she has, but it's just not there. You know,
yes. Now she does, but she doesn't sound like a little kid.
No,
her voice she has that deeper gravelly, gravelly voice that makes her.
Where with Ghost World, it was kind of like she was actually a child. So
well, because this could be so. I feel like if you don't have her or her voice or the way how she can come across older, I mean, this would be super weird.
It's a little weird already.
Okay. All right. Lost in translation. How was it returning back to it?
Well, I think this again was the movie I had nerves with, because this is a movie that I wanted to return to for the podcast. It's not rated on our data.
On the master list?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Wow.
I was
We're
surprised.
running this, really running into this a lot. One, I would just assume, honestly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page there.
It's been on Netflix for a while now.
Yeah, I just figured that, and again, it's something that I've seen multiple times and have sought out multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
So, but shockingly, it wasn't on there. So good to get on the podcast. It's something I wanted to maybe even dive into as a random watch in one of these weeks. And while I enjoy the film a lot, I don't feel as strongly as the lovers of this film, critics and internet, both included.
It's got a following.
Yeah, I mean, this film is really adored for a lot of reasons, and I think it deserves good credit, but for me, it falls through in some areas that I don't even necessarily want to unpack too much, rather just focus on the experience and what's going after. So, but for some reason, if you haven't seen it, folks, I do think for this week, this is my blanket recommendation, because without maybe some of the dicey subject matter of the virgin suicides being a heavy topic ultimately, this really is such a vertical slice of what everything Sophia Coppola has to go for and what she has to offer in her films.
Yeah. And I don't want to take anything away from her, but I feel like also her directing and writing is so well paired with Bill Murray and his Murray-ness.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just an extremely good pair. And
Yeah.
the funny thing is that's another connective kind of tissue to Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson has that same relationship with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Where he can get him an essence of him where you love to see him in the film.
Yeah.
With this, he's so Bill Murray, and he's just able to be Bill Murray, but that's also her knowing... Like, I mean, he's the one for the role.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I will note it later, but it is absolutely a lot of scenes just feel like he's released in the wild, in the wild that is, Tokyo, Japan. So, and those scenes work. So I feel like it's something that's a good creative partnership there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Lost in Translation centers around two lost souls in very different backgrounds and echoes a practical lesson. Don't travel depressed, because you'll just be depressed in another country. Unfortunately, I think that might connect somehow to Adam Sandler as a quote, so I'm going to move past it. But it really is true. Nonetheless, we explore loneliness through the eyes of two outsiders in Tokyo. Bill Murray playing an actor that is at the end of his career and resorting to tacky brand deals in Japan for whiskey. And Scarlett Johansson playing a tag-along wife of a neglectful husband, traveling on business, and is struggling to find her purpose post-grad. We watch each of their experiences unfold in the extremely eccentric Tokyo of the early 2000s, increasingly isolated by their surroundings. The film directly contrasts them being in possibly one of the most crowded cities and scenes constantly being a barrage of experiences and people and information and noise. This is done deliberately to contrast how they could not feel more lonely despite their surroundings. That is until they find each other, being a breath of common ground they can share, and most importantly, therapeutic partners for the emptiness they both have inside. I would say, much like the Virgin Suicides, I love the quiet comedic beats of the film.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of this completes itself with how wild Tokyo is during this time period. Early 2000s specifically, especially the entertainment industry that we see through Bill Murray's angle. Murray alone is just so entertaining
Yeah.
as a character here. I think a perfect running joke is just his size. He's like 6'2" or something like that, but it's emphasized over and over again how small everything is around him, and it's just a great running joke for the whole film. A lot of these moments of the film, they aren't meant to be punchlines. And just like I said, how it's almost like a dark comedy with the previous film. I don't know. Would you, from what you remember about this film, would you call it a comedy?
Yeah, I would do a drama comedy.
Okay.
A com-dram, I guess. A drum-com?
I don't like that.
Okay.
Drum-com.
But yeah, I don't think you got to put down comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the shoulders of Murray, is the comedic bits, but that's what you get. I mean,
That's what you get with
it's
him.
a movie of two actors, essentially.
Absolutely. He is the direct infusion of it. But
And like you said, it really feels like Murray's just let loose a bit.
Yeah.
And again, not to take away from Sophia Coppola, but it's just...
a lot's riding on him.
Yeah, exactly right.
Absolutely.
And so much comes into facial expressions or just that dry humor Murray.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a drama, but you can't not leave out.
Absolutely.
I would say comedy to tag it.
Yeah, well, not to give away the goat a little bit with Somewhere, movie that we'll cover in a little bit, but you see a very structurally similar film, and not having Bill Murray basically strips all comedy from it.
Okay.
So I'm 100% on the same page there with, it's kind of all on his shoulders, because you take those quiet moments, and without his funny faces or without his kind of physical comedy to it, it doesn't have any comedic beats to even yield. So
yeah, and I have to say, it's like, I don't know, he is an actor that doesn't care about motion or timing too. Just the way he can kind of just come in, and the way he speaks always isn't on time, or it doesn't follow a beat. The way he even walks, the way he can just fall into a room a little bit. Something's always off pitch a little bit, and that's what works. That's the quirkiness of Bill Murray that he can bring to it. It's fantastic.
Absolutely. I think, regardless of how you view it, though, folks, how this is elevated as an experience is because you have these depressive tones, these introverted tones to the film. These small comedic beats make the experience lighter, and I think a lot more palatable, and also a lot more depth. That it's not just all doom and gloom here. Something that will be needed with an upcoming film this week, like I said. So,
Okay.
I think one thing that we got to talk about, though, is the copious, and this is the term. I'm not being out of pocket here, but the English jokes that come along with the script here were shocking to revisit. And again, I've seen this, I don't know about a handful, but at least like 3 other times. It was shocking to come back to.
It wouldn't be made now. The writing would not happen the way it does in the movie.
And I guess it makes you question, is that what Bill Murray went to? Because all the jokes are the ones that are coming out of his mouth or what he's interacting with as far as characters. So I think in a critical capacity, it's important to consider the context. Bill Murray is this jaded old man. If he's a little dicey, maybe that's the character. But
also, I think jokes like back then, it was more acceptable.
Oh, for sure. 2003? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It was just more acceptable.
I think my marker for any type of 2000s comedy that doesn't hit anymore is like The Man Show or something like that. Once that ends, that's when we see a little bit of the page turn. So, but I think for me, I wanted to note it because as a rewatch of this film, there were so many jokes around it. It really, it was kind of jaw dropping in a way.
Did it make it more funny now? Because it's almost just like, wow, look how risky this movie is now.
Actually, the opposite. I wish it really was.
You're cringing a little bit.
A little bit. I think even in the awkward moments that this story has to put focus on it, I think that's where it wasn't working. I felt like it was almost like, all right, let's kind of get past this a little bit. So not terrible, but something
noticeable. It's noticeable.
Very noticeable. Very noticeable.
I caught about 20 minutes of it recently.
Oh, yeah.
Like before I knew we were doing it on the podcast. It's there.
Yeah. However, many aspects make up for this within the film, most notably the first-person dive into Tokyo in exploration segments that Sophia creates. So many scenes feel as they just unleashed Bill Murray into the wild, like we said, and this is where the more subtle approach works. Again, I think all of her movies work in quiet moments, and that's where almost she excels beyond anyone in these type of quiet moments. The same is done for Scarlett Johansson, but these moments sell a more of an observing angle. And this is where I think the film really feels at its best and deserves every ounce of the praise that you get online with this and among other critics. Despite my own bias towards Japan, Sophia is able to match the purposeless wandering of her characters with muted tones, and this is, like I said, deliberately contrasted constantly in the film with the barrage of neon and noise and excitement of the city streets to illustrate what our characters are feeling brilliantly.
Yeah.
You see just such a deliberate contrast of, wow, how could anyone, not react, and not even just be excited, but not react to what's around them, and these muted notes, a faded soundtrack, that's what really brings it home to the point of the film.
Yeah, and I think Scarlett Johansson does such a good job. She's playing a very, as you said, like a muted character.
Yeah.
She's playing an observant character, as you said, but so well. A lot of her acting even is just in her little mannerisms, her eyes, or what she might be doing with her lips, or something like that. She has this quiet, like, sexiness about her,
for sure.
But it's also tamed down to not make it too creepy with Bill Murray.
Yeah, right.
And I said it still might be a little bit creepy, but she's playing. I feel like she's really walking a tightrope.
Yeah.
And for how young she is, I just feel like she commands her role really well in this.
Absolutely. I think the only reason why I'm a little, on the age thing is I looked up actually how drastic the difference was.
It's massively different.
Yeah.
Not to mention, Bill Murray never looks good for his age.
No. And they make him look worse.
He always looks 10 years older than what he actually is.
Any scene he has eyeliner on is just like, oh my God. This dude looks like he's in the Addams Family.
But the age difference is huge, and that's why they try to keep it separate. They do try to, even the way the film ends a little bit, even.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's still there. There is a sexy play to the both of them still.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I really do think that is the point, Folks, when I mention I don't feel as strongly as this movie about other critics might, it's largely because it's pointing at that ending.
Yeah.
And understand, I mean, this is a beloved film so much that it's probably taught in a lot of film appreciation classes because of how much. So, I mean, that's what I'm kind of working away from a little bit. Not to be, just needlessly going against the grain, but that's really do how I feel about this film. This doesn't come close to an issue we will get to in some other films this week, but I've always disliked how the story ends here. I think without a dissection, the best I can say is that the very last moments of the story cement realizations around our character that I would say betrays a little bit of what is built up and the beautiful vagueness of the experience leading up to it. I mean, the experience of what's on screen, but also the experience of what's going on in the story between the relationship in Bill Murray and Scarlett Johansson. Questions better left unanswered aside, I think this is an undoubtedly very, very strong film. If there is any proof of concept needed for Sophia Coppola's strength as a director, it's all right here in one package. We're going to go ahead and give Lost in Translation 2003 a 78.
Wow, okay, 78. A very good score, very good score. And a 78 is good. We have new listeners, we'll say again, because we always try to say it once in a while. If you're in the 70s, this is considered a pretty damn good movie.
Yes.
Very good movie.
Yeah.
Because the 80s, it's difficult to be in the 80s when you're at the daily ratings here.
Right.
And we like that.
Yeah.
78% means very, very good movie.
Yes. Well worth your time. And like I said, it is, if you don't have any experience with Sophia as a director, it is unusually effective at giving you every piece that she does well.
That's great. So if you want to understand a little bit of Sophia Coppola or get a taste of what she's like, this is the film.
Yeah, almost unusually so. Right? Like it is everything that she does and does well in this case.
Excellent. 78, very good score for Sophia. A couple actor notes here.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, I know nothing about the actual backstory or the creation of the film, things like that leading up to it. I wonder if she was looking for Kirsten Dunst for this.
I think so.
Because the age is almost there. She's a little bit older.
And a longtime collaborator.
Right.
Even in like uncredited little things in later movies.
And she's still hot right now, meaning like she's on a roll.
Yes.
Because that Spider-Man stuff elevated her so much.
Right.
Two other notes. So let's say, I don't know if anyone else is going to get this except for you.
Okay.
Bill Murray's character.
Yeah.
Okay. Imagine if why he was in Tokyo, what he was trying to do, the ads and everything like that. Imagine if he took it in stride and really leaned into and went for it. Do you think it is a real life present day Tommy Lee Jones?
Whoa. Oh, because of the coffee. Oh, because of Boss Coffee.
He got there.
Oh, yes.
Not just the coffee, other things too. The national song. Remember they're singing
SoftBank as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So those of you who don't know, Tommy Lee Jones is oddly ingrained in Japanese and Tokyo culture.
And almost very tacky brand deals, but hilarious brand deals.
Yes, I would say everybody look up, is it Rainbow Mountain Coffee?
No, it's Boss. It's Boss, and then the brand is Rainbow Mountain.
Rainbow Mountain. Okay, everyone go on YouTube.
Look up Japanese coffee commercials with Tommy Lee Jones, and you will be delighted.
And that's what I'm talking about. And he sung the national song. They had the national whatever something that was. Yeah.
What's so crazy is that when I watch those ads, which I love, I mean we both love,
absolutely
that many a drinking night we just throw on the Tommy Lee. Yeah, it really is.
It's a party trick, is what it is.
It really is. It really is. What's so crazy about that is I always think back to the stories behind the scene for Batman Forever, where Jim Carrey apparently went up to Tommy Lee Jones offset.
Yes.
And Tommy Lee Jones talked a whole bunch of shit. I don't know what exactly is, but
Tommy Lee Jones hated whatever his face is. Yeah, Jim Carrey.
And talking about how cartoonish it was, and then to realize that years down the road he does all these tacky brands, it's I don't know, it goes...
It's so true. He does have a sense of humor for it. And we didn't see him for years and just hanging out in Tokyo making these things.
Right.
He is in a new film or something like that coming out.
Yeah.
I remember, the story is Jim Carrey went to dinner and then waiter came over and was just like, oh, you're working on a film with Tommy Lee Jones. He's at a table in the back. You want to come say hi? And so we went up to go shake hands with Tommy Lee Jones. Said he turned just bright red.
Wow.
Just red with anger, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
He shook Jim Carrey's hand, leaned in his ear and said, I loathe you. Or something like that. I mean, just crazy.
Right. But
which I can't totally picture that.
Sure. But then to do these, the most ridiculous. I mean, folks, again, watch these commercials. You will see how contradictory Tommy Lee was being.
So that's why I think Bill Murray leaned into his role there in Tokyo.
Very interesting.
So just with you talking about it, make this movie today. Who would you put in Bill Murray's place? I don't know who the female of today's female should be in the lead. I think Nick Cage.
Oh, yeah, Nick Cage would do great.
Especially Everything After Everything Everywhere All at Once. Not Everything Everywhere.
Massive Weight of Talent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed. But after that role, I think he would do great in this.
Oh, for sure. I actually have some trailer notes on the new movie that he's in called Dream Scenario that I think looks very good.
So there's one that's getting huge. He was in two at the exact same time. One was getting praised. One was not being talked about. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what do we follow here? Because I want to watch it too.
Yeah.
And Pig 2 got announced too, I believe. By the way.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm really done with these sequels. I mean,
Pig was one of his best. Pig was a truly phenomenal movie.
It really was.
I think
it was
he
good.
Gave that a 78. Like an 81 or 2 or something like that.
I don't know about the 80s.
Anyway, let's say Nick Cage is in Bill Murray's role.
Yeah.
Who would the female be? Who would the young? It's tough.
Young right now. We definitely see a re-roll of this in somewhere. The movie, two down the line. I don't know, tough to say.
We don't have many actors that we like coming up.
As far as
I know
he's not super old, but I feel like people would love Ryan Gosling as well as just kind of being over
he's too
it.
Handsome. He's way too good
You need the ugly factor.
Yeah, you need a guy that can play off being Nick Cage, definitely.
All right, yeah, I'm locking in.
How about our girl Florence Pugh?
Sure.
She's got that deeper voice too. That little bit of that ScarJo. Okay,
absolutely.
All right, we'll talk to Sophia.
We'll get it in the works. Lost in Translation too.
Okay, all right. Let's keep it moving. 78 for Lost in Translation. We're moving to 2006. This is Marie Antoinette. So she's coming back with Kirsten Dunst.
Yep.
And this one just screams style over substance. But we'll see if that kind of holds true.
Sure.
Let's get into it. How'd you like Marie Antoinette?
Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised. I've never seen this film. 3 years later, we see Kirsten Dunst reuniting with Sophia to fill a lead role this time. I guess she was kind of in lead role for Virgin Suicides. Right at the peak of her career within that Raimi Spider-Man trilogy.
Yeah, she's coming off of that 2006.
Yeah, it's in between 2 and 3. So this is
maybe the first.
This is her definitely springboarding.
Okay,
that.
Maybe the first Spider-Man was 2003.
I think you were right with 2001. I don't know.
Regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she's still well known. She's
absolutely. And if anything, to Kirsten Dunst's credit, in between that time between Virgin Suicides and this, you have like not rom-coms, but definitely teen flicks like Bring It On and stuff like that.
Yeah, she's in stuff. Yeah,
absolutely. My expectation though with this film is that it was a period piece with a bolt of indie rock sent through it. While it does kind of lean into that, it really is more historical than I ever expected.
I would prefer that. So that's I don't need no Baz Luhrmann coming in here mucking it up.
That's so funny. I would say.
Did your notes?
Yeah. Soundtrack wise, this intentionally clashes with the time period, having a pop rock spin, and I would loosely to compare it to Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet or Romeo and Juliet, but instead actually being set in its period piece past.
Sure, yeah.
So that's so funny, and then really my notes for Priscilla is it's the Elvis head to head.
It really is. Yeah, it is.
It's also not an amazing movie. I'll just come out and say it. Mostly I wanted to cover it because Priscilla looked to be a similar formula. I think some credit can be given to Sophia for her take on the new princess story trope. This is something that we've really never mentioned on the podcast before, but a prime example of the new princess story trope would be the 1990 classic Pretty Woman, and even the soft peer coming out at the time, The Princess Diary, in 2001. Structuring around the new princess type of story is around two things. One, the wonder that comes with experiencing royalty firsthand with fresh eyes, and two, the drama that is usually sourced around judging glares of the people around our main character. That's pretty much every one of those movies. And not bad, but I thought it was an interesting take on that. Marie Antoinette depicts the young French aristocrat who rose to power in potentially the worst time possible. She really did not have a long run. This story spans her beginnings as an Austrian princess and focuses heavily on her outsider perspective towards the lavishly excessive wealth of the French royalty. What the film doesn't focus on is mostly anything outside her direct experiences. In a lot of cases, that means trapped within the doors of the palace, and being, woefully disconnected with what might be happening outside those castle walls. And with the brewing French Revolution, that awareness would serve the Queen well. I would say when it comes to Kirsten Dunst, I was really rooting for her to be a great performance here.
Yeah.
She really is one of my earliest on-screen crushes, probably going back to Bring It On, something that was shoved down my throat by my sister growing up. But her acting quality is unfortunately all over the place here. She's certainly beautiful. She has a ball when she's having fun on screen. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of energy. It leans into Sophia's style. Her among the French elite, but the moment dramatic beats come, she falls short, crying most of all, with no tears, and looking like she's laughing half the time. I mean, just sticking on this Batman kick, it's like in Batman and Robin when what's-his-face, George Clooney, is crying over Alfred, and he's just, laughing. It's just no, that's not it. So, very much here, unfortunately, the dramatic side of the performance, which is ultimately the destination for this film, if you've been relatively familiar with the history, is not the strong suit. The strong suit of this film is happy, fun times, and living it up in French royalty. And when she leans into that, it's a ball. She's a ball on screen. It really does translate. But that's ultimately not what brings the story home. And those dramatic beats really do fall short.
I never really found her as a great dramatic actress.
No, yeah, me neither.
It's a shame. I think because she's lovable, she reminds me of a likable, who's the one that people just recently hated because of the writer's strike stuff, has her own talk show.
Selena Gomez?
No, definitely not.
Drew Barrymore.
Yes, she reminds me, I've never liked Drew Barrymore in my life.
Yeah.
Except for maybe 50.
Drew Barrymore is my most hated.
Oh,
right?
good. Okay,
Yeah,
so we share this.
Yeah.
Andrew's not a fan either after one interview with that she had.
Good.
And she was just, I can't believe she still even had a show or someone ever gave her a show. But anyway, Kirsten Dunst had always reminded me of a likable Drew Barrymore.
Yes.
But still bad, kind of bad at acting. But as you said, rooting. I'm always going to root for her.
Exactly. I was rooting for, I mean, it's a cool looking movie. Again, I mean...
that style.
The style comes through. And I think... without us knowing the intimacy of what really happened behind palace walls, I think this is a playground for not an alternate history, but a creative take on the history itself, and maybe saying something interesting.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think Kirsten is a great choice for that, but it's just not there. My real praise for this film comes in production with countless costumes and set work that feels as expensive as what I would imagine the real world equivalent is. But sadly, I think it all goes to waste in the confusion of the film. And this is something that we will see in the new release of Priscilla as well, struggling with. The plot works as a fun dream come true. Again, this new princess story arc that works for 95% of the film, having a fun time, drinking. It's all macaroons and dresses, and rightfully never concerned with the politics, rightfully never concerned with the actual historical period piece that this is masquerading as.
Right.
But at the very end of the story, we see it snap to radically different historical tone, a radically different historical tone, as if it was all about the revolution the whole time. No,
it doesn't work like that.
Marie doesn't get her cake and eat it too.
Right.
I mean, really, it's almost like a joke that this neck turn was acceptable, because the movie is not about that in the slightest. I think, once again, Sophia's style is great, and I was excited to see that style applied to a traditional period piece, fuse some youth in it. Like I said, a kind of a bolt of indie rock to it. But sadly, nothing meaningful was said with this story, and I was fine having this be more about the experience, but that ending does not line up. It lets the nonfiction history overtake what most of the film was going for, abandoning its main appeal. We're going to go ahead and give Marie Antoinette, 2006, a 59.
Ooh, okay, 59.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't say there's a lot of interest there in this one for me. I personally probably would like it even less.
Sure.
If it does have this Baz Luhrmann type structure
youthful,
to it.
Yeah.
What's the other one that Baz did that was a remake with Leo and Toby?
Oh, Great Gatsby.
Yeah.
That's more Baz being on his bullshit. I mean, I think this is much better.
Better? Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
much more focused as well. But yeah, similar vibe to it.
Okay, so let's keep it going here. And by the way, that was the only one that's rated PG-13. All of her films are like an hour and 40-ish minutes and rated R. Marie Antoinette's the only one PG-13 in a little over 2 hours. But she seems very she keeps a tight script, which seems kind of nice.
Which is good.
Yeah.
And again, while I may not be in love with a lot of where her stories end up, she's still a creative powerhouse. She knows what she's going after, and in execution, again, the big chunks of these films really do work on that execution.
All right, so let's jump to 2010. This film is just called Somewhere, and I feel like this might be her taking a different turn a little bit. I'm surprised at the cast at this one for sure.
Yeah.
Let's get into it and tell us about Somewhere. What's it about?
Well, folks, for this fourth slot, I was really torn on what to cover. Our first three films were no-brainers, but once we peeked over into the 2010s, it wasn't an easy task to pin down what the choice would be in between now and Priscilla. Maybe 2013's Bling Ring, like we mentioned, certainly a copycat of the early A24 style that she is now, very much a part of. Mm-hmm. Or maybe even her reuniting with Bill Murray in 2020's On the Rocks as a follow-up and connecting again with that comedic force. But I landed on this movie because I didn't really see any connective tissue at all, and what do I get, Tom? A movie I hate.
That's what you get.
So I should have stayed on my bullshit. I should have always connective tissue. This movie I despised. I said, what a waste.
Okay, well, it's only an hour and 37.
Oh, I thank God. I really hated this one. Somewhere is a movie that is structurally similar to Lost in Translation. This is the one I was talking about.
Okay.
Many scenes mimic the unspoken hassle that comes with fame, especially to illustrate that it's not always what it cracks up to be. Stephen Dorff plays an A-list actor living in L.A., and nearly every moment of the film is dedicated to him languishing around his current depressive state caused by a lack of purpose and feeling numb to his otherwise dream life. Some of that comes with a comedic spin, much how Asian culture was poked at in the previous. Now we have the absurdity of Hollywood in the crosshairs. The movie even repeats its hotel-heavy setting, exchanging the famous Park Hyatt for the mega-exclusive Chateau Marmont. So, really, the silhouette of this film is almost
she's going for it
cut
again.
And copy of what Lost in Translation is, almost shamelessly so. But that's just the start, folks. Dorff happens to be a father in this, with Ellie Fanning playing his daughter under joint custody. When they are together, he is a whole different person springing to life. This gives him an innocent tag-along that breaks up the many plot beats where he either acts like a degenerate or screws every blonde he come across. I'm not even kidding. Every blonde woman. It's unreal. And I think as a positive here, Dorff and Fanning work well on screen with a handful of cute moments that, for me, sold what very low-hanging fruit this story was going after.
Okay.
Sadly, nothing about this film resembles the praise I have for Sophia's work so far. I mean, this is an outlier on so many levels. This is an outlier in the sense that it's a wannabe of Lost in Translation, but it's by the same director. I felt like it was this would be the experience if I did like a Roland Emmerich study, and we did Day After Tomorrow, and then 2012, and then
Moonfall.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it felt like. It was just like, oh, really? Again? Like, it's disappointing, really.
So no style or substance.
Yeah, I feel like the style fails in that the subject of L.A. is weaker.
Ellie Fanning is playing like you said, father and daughter.
Yeah.
She's playing like a young teen, kind of like a tween age.
Oh, absolutely.
Daughter. Okay.
Yeah. And
2010. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. A couple years after this, she'll do exciting.
She gets
things
bigger.
like
Yeah.
Neon Demon. Really exciting projects. But yeah, she's still very much in that kid actor vibe. And again, I think for what it's worth, they work together. Ellie especially.
Sure.
But most frustrating of all is how this story plays out, being questionably bland and a total rehash of ideas, folks. In the first half of the film, we see Dorff spiraling without purpose, giving into this piece of shit lifestyle. And halfway through, when his daughter stays with him for an extended time, what do you know? He begins to find a new lease on life. That's it. That's it.
Okay.
We get a small dramatic beat when she has to set off for summer camp at some point in the film, and that's the movie. Papa plus daughter equals purpose. Like, it is so insultingly low-hanging and so without spin and so without the hallmarks of Sophia's great execution that these director studies are about giving praise and spotting trends, and this was almost insulting. I don't know how she recovered from this.
So just boring as hell, basically?
No, boring isn't the right word. Rehash, low-hanging fruit, no bite, no teeth. These are the descriptors for this film. Wannabe. And again, it's her own movie. It's how ridiculous this is. It's seriously the most basic thing possible, and it's more disappointing in an experience than I ever expecting watching her films, especially when her films, above all else, are about experience, are about being kind of transported into vibes, absolutely, dreams. That's what it's all about. It's so funny we mentioned the movie After Sun last episode on the podcast because this explores very similar themes. Both have a single father struggling with depression around his preteen daughter. And on the surface, that sounds like a story with depth, but these two films could not be more different. Where After Sun, admittedly, might have wallowed in its misery a little bit too much, this movie has no teeth, no grit to the story that makes it worth telling. It literally is, when daughter's around, I'm happy. When daughter's away, I'm sad. That's it.
That's literally
it. Spoilers aren't even a concern because, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's the most also basic thing you could do with the character arc of it. The only thing that I think has, again, some merit is that the interaction between Dorff and Fanning is different than the interaction of what we see in Lost in Translation, where, with Murray and Johansson, that's a romantic spin. We get a different type of scene when it's a father-daughter.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it has nothing going for it. The last moments of this film, I was stunned with how painfully simple it was. The most straightforward story you could ever write. And I suppose this could be considered a hangout film. I'll meet in the middle a little bit. You kind of know I'm not really a fan of hangout films.
No. This is coming across as like, I don't know why, but Zach Braffy in Garden State.
See? You're getting sharp.
See?
You're getting sharp. For not watching any movies this week, you're pretty sharp.
It's the record ratings, baby.
It's great.
But yeah, it's these films that leave you feeling empty because not exciting, not in depth. Not edge of your seat.
It has nothing to say.
Not captivating. Right, because Lost in Translation, in a way, could be very, very boring if not executed well.
Sure.
All on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you have to really be immersed in the atmosphere.
This just sounds boring. It sounds beneath her, this quality of work.
Absolutely. Disappointing is really what I walked away with. And, the arc just left me with such a massive, immense feeling of, duh.
Right. Okay.
I mean, come on. I think where this movie is a unique failure, though, for Sophia is stylistically. And it really breaks my heart to say it because there's been nothing but praise stylistically so far. And there will be praise with Priscilla as well as probably its strongest element. Let's put aside the many parallels to her own Lost in Translation for a moment. Otherwise, I really won't be able to stay away from calling this just lazy. The first half of the film focuses very heavily on L.A. and the hassle of the acting industry. Our direct understanding of the character's depression is through the annoying portrayal of the biz, just how those muted tones communicated the depression in Lost in Translation. I already broke my rule. I'm already comparing to Lost in Translation. When the daughter steps in, there is obviously a wonderment to all the perks that comes with the press tour of his movie. And as if the story had no backbone at all, suddenly our visuals adjust to glamorous aesthetics, becoming a love affair with the subject it was just carving into. It just feels like it's in the wind. It has no backbone to where it's going, and I can't just tell you how disappointing that follow through. The lack of follow through.
Seems like you're pretty disappointed by it.
Yeah. Now, obviously, my frustration is, I think in part because I watched so many of her films in a row this week that I couldn't almost avoid the comparison game.
Yeah, this was the odd duckling here.
Yeah. But I've never come across such a bland reroll within a director. By this point, I've done a lot of director studies too. Maybe expect this from someone who pumps out a lot of films. Like I said, a Roland Emmerich study. If God forbid I ever have to do that. But this was disappointing, and perhaps so much of her work in the 2010s bleed together from afar for the same exact reason. Tom, I got to give it the old Kane Mutiny. Folks, it is a score when I need to illustrate a waste of an experience. Yes, quite a few films are much worse than this movie and may have gotten a higher score, but scoring it in the 40s just doesn't cut it. We're going to go ahead and give Somewhere a 39.
All right, somewhere in the 30s. I like it.
Yes.
Right where it belongs, I'd say. I mean, After Sun you didn't love. I mean, it was seeming like this was worse than After Sun. After Sun got a 49.
But After Sun had something to say, and this movie just has nothing to say. And hey, if the arc of when I'm around daughter, it means the world to me. If that's enough, I don't know. But
not a very titillating picture, I'd say.
Yeah,
39%.
You said it.
Oh, that's an adjective that people use.
Titillating.
Okay.
He's moving on.
Folks, if you want to be a producer of this great thing that we built here,
record rating.
Just go to. We are completely producer supported, basically. So Vin and I host the podcast. We keep up with the website. The newsletter comes out every week. Everything like that. But the idea is we're completely producer supported. We're not looking to get big ad revenue and hit you with advertising, make you the product as we just sell you products. You know, we take the numbers and our downloads. We take it to advertising companies. Say, look at how many people we have, and then they give us money and shill products, yada yada. We're staying away from that. We're going off the value for value model, and basically, it's real simple. Are you getting value from the daily ratings? You checking out the website? You listening to the podcast? Are you enjoying hanging out with us once a week? Are you legitimately changing your own movie list, getting into movies a little bit more than what you were before you were listening to us? So that's value in your pocket. We basically ask you to give us value back in our pocket. You go to thedailyratings.com, you go to the donations tab, and through any monetary support, whatever value you feel, you can make up a random number and you send it our way. There are no set amounts. Now, we do have a weekly, we have a fun monthly, and some kind of funny one-timers if you want to, that's show related. But still, there's the value for value button there, and you can just give any amount that you want. Big, small, it doesn't matter. We have no paywalls. We have no tier structures. It's whatever you want.
Yep.
And anyone who donates is a legit credited producer of the Daily Ratings, because just like in Hollywood, you're financially supporting the show is what you're doing. So another cool thing, when you donate, basically you can write in a note, whether it be questions, comments, critiques, love or hate, doesn't matter. If you're going to donate, you can write something in, and we're going to read it right here. We'll address it right here in this segment of the podcast, which is pretty cool. It's a good through line to you. It's open communication with you, and it's the least we can do if you're going to send some money our way. So we hope you all are getting value from it. We hope all you become producers in the future. We thank those of you who have produced in the Daily Ratings in the past. And Vin and I are having a great time doing this. Hope to continue to do this for a long time. It's great to see more and more people every week joining. We love it. If you can, get the word out, tell people about it, get us in the conversation is where we want to be. And also, with how much work that Vin and I put into it, all 5 films a week Vinny is watching, hours and hours and hours of note-taking just to come here and then for us to set up and everything. So it is a lot of work. We enjoy it, but it's a lot. So if you do get any type of value, if you could, go to thedailyratings.com and become a producer today. All right, Vin. So with that, let's get on to our now in theaters for a small amount of time, it seems.
Yeah, right.
But our new release are in theaters now. This is Priscilla. And like you said, it's going head-to-head basically against Baz Luhrmann's Elvis.
Yeah.
And let's get into it right away. How was it? And how was your movie experience?
you know what's up. So we got to talk about my movie experience first. This was unbelievable. I texted you, Tom, and it was so funny. And I don't mean to make light of what may have been a scary situation, but it wasn't. So
it's funny.
Yeah, it's funny. I watched this with Mama Daly. We saw the original Elvis, or not the original, but last year's Elvis together. So this was kind of like the follow-up of it. And also, the background of this is an A24 film and is very slow-paced. So it's a little bit of a boring film.
Okay.
It's A24 vibes may not be everyone's bag. So we are, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes into this. And again, this film is so quiet, so deafeningly quiet that you hear Taylor Swift prominently add to the very girl pink vibes of what this is going. And then all of a sudden we hear, oh my God, someone call 911. It's pandemonium. Everyone's heads are turned. You felt the theater turn.
Okay, who is talking? Set up the theater for us. We're going to spend more time on this than the movie. Okay. Where are you sitting in the theater?
We chose a very front left corner.
Front.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Where's the 911 call
weird
coming
in my movie seat choices now. I
try
to get out of the way.
Theater placement because you should probably be the expert on theater placement. Okay, we're going to be long on this.
Yeah.
Where is the call? Where is the panic person coming from?
Dead center, probably 4 from the back.
Okay.
And so everyone that's where this like head turning you
like
heard
a wave. Like just
you heard the heads turn. Someone calls 911. She goes, oh, he's not waking up. She runs out. People are dashing out of the theater. People are running out.
Okay, to get help.
Right.
Any doctor? Did anybody do that? There's a doctor here. Did anyone do that?
No.
Oh, come on.
We get a 911 call. I think the security guard came in or something like that. Did it?
Right. He can't do anything.
Turns out this 32-year-old man just fell asleep. His boring
and his girlfriend was freaking out. His wife was freaking out.
He freaking out. Freaking out, and obviously that's embarrassing. You know what I mean? I feel for her, but the cherry on top, the absolute best part about this is that my mother turns around to me. She goes, "Shit, Vincent, this is better than the movie." And I
could you not laugh at
it's
that?
just so perfect. She goes, "Shit, Vincent, this is more entertaining than the movie." It's so
How long did this ordeal last?
Oh, I mean, at least a good 20 minutes. So much so that they then reset the movie. They gave us voucher tickets.
When did the theater shut off?
Pretty
How
soon
long
after.
into the panic?
I don't know if it was 6 minutes. They set it back a little bit earlier. I honestly,
So
the reality of it, fake or not fake or not, but real panic or not, it's fine. Like I don't care about the time loss or anything like that.
No,
I'm glad
for
the
sure,
guy's all right.
for sure.
It's just so ridiculous.
This guy was asleep for that long?
My thinking is that this chick and the guy probably had like a gummy or something like that. He was out.
Absolutely what happened.
And then she was probably in this like panic, you know.
What happened when the guy woke up?
The security guard is giving him like a health exam. He's just like, "Oh, dude, do you fall asleep? Don't you? Do you pass out a lot?"
Are you serious?
And he's like just groggy.
Theater?
He was just still groggy.
Can you imagine how I would be the ride home? He's probably like Ray Liotta at the end of Goodfellas. What did you do? Why did you do that?
Yeah, for real. I mean, talk about embarrassing. It really was. Again, we're talking about this because it wasn't
the
something.
Whole theater, Karen. Why would you do that?
Karen. Yeah.
Oh man.
Unreal. And just again that punctuation point. It's better than the movie. Shit, Vincent. So good. That's
a D- impression of Vince's mom, by the way. To be fair, so you don't get in trouble later.
Right. So she doesn't talk like a mafia boss.
Yeah, with a cigarette in her mouth.
Yeah, she doesn't have a gravel voice.
Okay, so that's the precedence for what we're setting up here.
It was just so funny. It just. When I texted you that, Tom, I was like,
and that was in theater. You texted me live.
Yeah, while the lights were on and everything like that.
That's very
nothing
funny.
else to do. I was caught up with my notes at that point. Oh, so good.
Okay, all right.
But back on track, folks. The Elvis head-to-head is here. If you're curious about my thoughts on 2022's Elvis, go ahead and check out that episode. And my thoughts on a very messy film, unfortunately. Probably one of the worst performances from Tom Hanks I've ever had the displeasure of seeing.
Yeah, you were not a fan. Yep.
Yeah. Mostly the films are in competition, even though it may not be apparent initially, with mainly the depiction of Elvis Presley directly. Last year's film being criticized for its rubber portrayal of the king, unusually having no bite to its story, even for kind of a soulless music biopic. And here, Sophia takes a hard stance in spotlighting some problematic behavior in dating a rock star, and uses a dreamlike romance to get it done. I was excited to see this a little bit of a menacing spin to otherwise a bubblegum dream come true of dating a rock star.
Right.
I think
the king, no less.
Right. I think that matching is exactly what Virgin Suicide had going for it, and I was really excited to see it here. So I'm very happy to say Sophia proves that she is a powerhouse once again stylistically. I think this might be one of the best looking films to come out of A24 shop this year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, this year. Okay, all right.
This year, yeah. I mean, the film drips, and I mean drips, in romantic silhouettes and golden hour outlines that speak so strongly to what I love in her early works, and how that tone, how that style actually matches and becomes a little bit of substance where maybe a story could be lacking. Also, by focusing this on the female experience, I was excited to give her another chance like Marie Antoinette, where hopefully something meaningful was said beyond just that style. Mm-hmm. I think Priscilla is best summarized by its premise. ninth grade Priscilla grows her relationship with 24-year-old Elvis Presley. This difference in age and maturity is only the groundwork, though, for a relationship that can be defined as unbalanced. The film flirts the line with the grooming of Priscilla, ducking in and out of Elvis's portrayal. But honestly, if this grosses you out, folks, if this maybe you're an Elvis fan and you really are against this dicey angle, the film's priority is not to be a hit piece on Elvis and is surprisingly tame when it comes to sexual content. So I think a lot of Elvis fans, there was also some articles going around of not Priscilla, but their daughter kind of disapproving of this.
Definitely disapproving, yeah. I thought Priscilla wasn't happy with it either.
I think she did approve it, but I don't know. Maybe that might have been just in the writing stage. I'm not too sure.
Okay.
But it's really...
oh, no, she liked it. She liked it. You're right.
Yeah.
And it was the daughter.
The daughter
yes.
was against it.
Exactly right, yeah.
But it really is surprisingly tame. And this age angle, it is only the setup to mainly explore what the film wants to explore, which is a hyper power dynamic that comes with a rock star love story, no less with the king himself.
Okay.
It's how the relationship is almost cartoonishly unbalanced because it is Elvis Presley. Right. You know, there is no, what the mother says to Priscilla at some point in the film is just like, "Don't you like other boys?" There are no other boys. Right. It's Elvis. So that really is the point. It's exploring that almost possibly unique power dynamic that would come with dating a rock star.
Right.
And that's only that age angle is only an accent note to that. Once again, though, this dicey age angle is an underlying theme to a lot of scenes, however. Priscilla is depicted to be a child in so many ways, even past the time that she is of age and fully living in Graceland as an adult. For instance, the size difference in height is so exaggerated on screen to make her cartoonishly small standing together, and I feel like that bleeds over into casting decisions for these actors. The guy, honestly, I don't have a lot of experience with the actors. If you're looking for my opinion of who did better as an Elvis impression, I don't really care.
Austin Butler had a good. Who's this guy? Jacob Elordi?
I think he's from, I don't want to say Euphoria, some teen, something like that. I think that the objectives of the film are so different. In no way, despite a good job, it's not like trying to be such he's doing a good Elvis. You know what I mean? It's different. The drama it takes hold too much.
It's not about... Yeah, the Austin Butler thing, totally different.
Yeah, exactly.
On a different level.
Exactly. Yeah. Where Austin is concerned with singing as well.
And talking, singing. I mean, that was the Elvis biopic.
Exactly.
This is called Priscilla, so they just needed to get by.
Exactly.
I feel like, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Slowly we see his control in the relationship verge on emotional abuse, and with Elvis flying off the handle so quickly in some scenes, honestly, it felt a little bit unearned, actually. And I bring that up is a slight critique to how the drama unfolds sometimes on screen, but also it's just to show, again, the drama is the priority. What they're examining, the relationship under a spotlight is the priority. It's not necessarily like, how good of an Elvis is he doing, or how good is Priscilla in this depiction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you're in it for the story, not for the portrayal.
Right.
Where, like, the Elvis movie was all about Austin Butler playing Elvis.
Right.
I mean, there was so much...
And unusually Tom Hanks giving I don't know what he's giving. So.
Yes. But, yeah, there was more talk about him and the portrayal of Elvis than the movie itself.
Yes.
Where this is supposed to be about Priscilla's story.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. Honestly, folks, don't forget my high praise for the style, because the beats of the film feel as bubbly as a high school girl would be being courted by Elvis Presley. I feel like tone-wise, Sophia is able to flirt that line perfectly of baking in a slight menacing spin to a very poppy, pink,
Grease
girl
type
romance.
Yeah.
Like it is a dream come true for Priscilla. And this is where Sophia excels in mastery of that tone, because she's able to effortlessly bake these themes into an over-the-top romance. The same soft, twisted innocence we felt in The Virgin Suicides is used once again here to sell the menace in an otherwise dream come true. It shines in her usual hipster music choices as well. Comes out to be a very unique early 60s sound, which I enjoyed a lot.
Okay, but she's using modern day songs?
No.
Good.
More so like deep cuts of 60s songs.
Cool.
That you would really have to dig for. It's not low-hanging fruit, which...
Right, it's just cheaper fruit.
I respect the angle, you're not wrong. However, the film is also unusually slim on music or musical performances from Elvis, which might fall short for some viewer expectations. I bring this up because if this really is going to be a head-to-head, this is, like you said, a biopic for Priscilla.
Yeah.
Not having any, there's like one we get, which is like I forget what he's performing. Yeah, I think it's during his slight decline in the 70s or something like that. But I
would expect
not having an ounce of the music, I think, is a kind of a failure.
I would expect 2 and 3. I mean, the film's purpose is the behind the scenes Elvis. Mm-hmm. It's not supposed to be show Elvis.
Yep.
But I would expect 2 or 3 where you're getting her reaction shots to him like killing it on stage or something like that. You know what I mean? I would expect a little bit of that.
Exactly.
But yeah, only 1. Okay.
It didn't make that much of a difference for me. I feel like some viewers of that is that's going to be almost a no-go.
Yeah, you got to be aware what you're walking into.
Yeah, almost in the same way that with Baz Luhrmann's Elvis, how like modern music was infused in that, and that was kind of almost unacceptable. This has kind of a vibe in a different way, or a similar aspect. So, sadly, the film has more potential than what unfolds on screen, and I couldn't help but feel it held back a punch. I think the pacing towards the end collapses. The story plays out alongside with Elvis's career, ending sometime during his decline in Vegas. And I think part of the problem is that the history of their relationship doesn't have a cinematic endpoint, or at least not one that Priscilla has agency in. I think this would propel into being an excellent film if in the edit we close things up much earlier and on one of the emotional abuse moments as a strategic point instead, rather than having it actually play out as a biopic. This was unfortunately a rewash of my criticism with Marie Antoinette, that I feel in the story, in the artistry of the film, choose your ending when it hits most. Instead, the biopic, the history, takes over the runtime too much.
Okay, but the problem is, she's got to stick. Coppola's got to stick with what actually happened.
Sure,
you know what I mean. And it's not a snapshot of time with Elvis. It's supposed to be the full circle.
Sure,
like, you know what I mean. I feel like her hands are tied, where the ending is the actual ending that she needs to.
Right.
Are you saying just lean into other things more, or just?
No, I don't know. Maybe
you know what I mean.
You bring up a good point, because if it is going to be a biopic, it has to be this. I guess my mixed feelings on it is that it was achieving some degree of greatness by not being a biopic, by just being kind of this happened to be a celebrity-focused examination of these power dynamics in the relationship, and was achieving something unique. Instead, it turns out it is just a biopic.
Right.
And I think maybe that's a little bit of expectations, but I also think it's what the film builds up in its first half and then abandons, much like Marie Antoinette.
Okay, gotcha. That's a different story then.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it is unacceptable what I suggested, as far as instead of just ending where things actually end, choosing a specific moment that sticks the most in Priscilla's life and where the emotional abuse becomes too much. And there's a turning point. I feel like that is where I would want things kind of buttoned up a little bit. It just goes on.
Yeah, I would have to see it to really. I don't know. I'm in a camp where tell it how it happened.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think I would be upset if the idea is it ends in one of those heated moments or something like that.
Okay.
And it ends on a climatic scene like that.
Sure.
Because then the question is, okay, well, what about when he died suddenly? What about the aftermath of that? I would feel really unresolved.
Yeah.
I feel like.
True.
But
what was her role in in those moments?
Right, but I understand the point of if the first half we're leading towards something,
Yeah.
or it's coming across in a certain way,
Yeah.
and then it just kind of swches, and then
And
it's just full biopic or something like
exactly.
that.
And that's where it's identical to Marie Antoinette, I feel like, at my expectations, my preference aside, what the film actually builds up is abandoned a little bit.
Okay, gotcha.
And really on that note, for all this examination of power dynamics and toxic behavior, the film really doesn't say anything by the end. Once again, these biographical aspects of the story become too strong, in my opinion, and it weakens what works best for the experience. That buildup of this hidden tension and that buildup of examining the relationship in probably a way that a relationship has never been, with that much of a difference and that much of a variance, it almost uses none of it in its conclusion. I would say it's almost suiting to my experience this week because, speaking honestly, almost all 5 of these films do not have strong endings. Sophia's eyes for visuals, tone, and style makes for a breathtaking feel to her films. Like I've said many times on this episode so far, the frames of her movies are soft and feminine in a way that no other director can come close to. She has the mark. But I'm sorry to say, her stories have a hard time sticking the landing, and I could not shake it once again here. I think in Priscilla's case, that means we have to see a movie as it concludes. That's as a biopic. I think preference aside, this is a biopic, and in actuality does really go head-to-head with last year's Elvis a lot more than I expected. Wow. And that might be the least interesting way to end this story. We're going to go ahead and give Priscilla a 69.
Okay, 69%. I mean, not a bad score. I don't know what to think about that, honestly. Elvis was such a big movie last year.
It really was.
2 years ago? No, last year.
Yeah, last year, 2022.
I just kind of figured that this was a smaller little sister companion piece.
Sure.
But it is interesting. If it's telling, I would be interested to see that other half of the story.
Yeah.
That is only so explored.
Right.
In Elvis from last year.
Sure.
But, okay, 69%. Not a bad score, though.
No. I think it was a good movie. I think it is held back, though. I feel like it could have, like I said, it could have really excelled into or propelled into an excellent film if it just had followed through on what was in the crosshairs, what was in the sight, because it was really interesting. And as a topic, as a subject, you can't really say how many relationships can you examine in this way with the age, with its the king of rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I felt like that had so much potential, and I really try not to knock a film for what it's not or what I think it should be. I try to stay away from that. But there's something deliberately being built up for half of this movie, and then it just kind of becomes Priscilla biopic.
Okay.
So...
Okay, interesting. And how was she? Let's just talk about her real quick. Good actress, and was she killing it?
Once again, I don't know where she's from.
She's not from much. Kaylee Spaney? Spaney? Yeah.
And unlike Scarlett Johansson, not actually as young as she's depicted.
Right.
There's a lot of, I think in a positive way, there's a lot of visual trickery. She looks like a child in compared to this towering guy.
Right, yeah.
What's his name again? Mundy?
Jacob Elordi.
I don't know why I said Mundy. Lordy. Lordy is towering next to her. So visually as well in this silhouette, we see this indifference. We see this, this separation.
Which is good. Do you think that she, with the amount of, it's her film to own, it's Priscilla, she's the main, do you think she'll be talked about come Oscar time?
I honestly don't know. If I really wanted to take my knives out on this film, Priscilla's story almost gets hijacked by having to tie it to Elvis's lifestyle.
It's pigeonholed big time.
Exactly.
But her acting specifically, of taking the character and run with it, did she feel like she owned it? Did she feel powerful
I think
in
so.
it as far as...
I think so. I don't know about powerful because, again, it's always putting her, dealing with a loose cannon.
Right.
But I think it could be a nomination. Certainly not, it wouldn't really get my vote for best performance.
Okay. Gotcha.
Todd Daly's, that is. Also, I'm excited to come up with the custom categories.
I've only thought...
knocked it out of the park last year.
I know. I haven't thought of much. I actually just thought of one the other day.
Oh, nice.
Which I think will be a pretty good.
Time.
But they just came to me last time, so I got to be a little bit creative.
Sure.
I got
I think you're
to
gonna
sit down and think about it. We still have some more big films to come out too.
It's true, very
but
true.
Tom Daly's, I can't believe it's already around the corner, kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. So, apologies to Baz Luhrmann. Took a lot of fire this episode.
I didn't expect
as much.
I pulled from his early. Yeah.
But I'm okay with that. I'm not a big fan of the guy. So, all right, Vince. So, very good. Anything you want to add or roll credits here?
Trailer notes. Like I
please.
said, dream scenario looks like a perfect role for Nick Cage.
Is this the one where he's a hitman?
No.
Okay.
This is one where it's. I think it's A24, and it's almost like a very 90s premise. He's like a professor, and he just starts showing up in like everyone's dream.
Yeah. This is the one that's very good, apparently.
Yeah.
Because he plays it, like I said, he's coming out with 2 around the same time.
Yeah.
The other one, he's a hitman.
Oh, really?
Or a retired hitman or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So someone generic like that.
But good trailer.
A good trailer. Also, just like, again, I think a perfection role for, I'm sorry. But also a perfect role for Nick Cage because he gets to be like his wiry, reserved self, but also in these dream segments, he looks like he's going crazy Nick Cage. So it's great.
When does it come out? This year or next year?
It's supposed to come out sometime in November, but I was having a hard time finding it. It's almost like a whale where it's like, what theaters is this actually in?
Well, that's a very Nick Cage film.
Yeah.
I mean, his films a lot of times do not come out very much. But I know it was making waves throughout through all the film festivals and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, that's good.
Yeah. Other one, did you see this trailer for Iron Claw?
No.
I mean, talk about striking.
Is it a theater release or a...
No, it's theater. Talk about striking while the iron is hot. Mullets come back, and we suddenly get a wrestling movie with Zac Efron and the dude from The Bear. I mean, it is...
That's right. Yeah. No, I remember
about, like, very strategic timing that this thing has come out. And I mean,
you think strategic would be strategic?
Not strategic.
A wrestling movie and boxing movie, you're always going to, like, every 3 or 5 years...
I guess
we get one that hits.
It's the popularity of the dude from The Bear.
Yeah. A big fan, by the way.
Right.
Big fan of him.
Exactly. Yeah. It's mullets coming back. It's I'm telling you, it's striking the iron while it's hot.
Okay.
Like, this is that is very strategically fine tuned by the studio.
Okay, excellent. All right, I have one note as well.
Yeah.
Because I just want to make a note if people are still listening. I just want to take back a year ago today. I think we had a very powerful episode on the Daily Ratings.
Okay.
So this is where we covered the All Quiet on the Western Front.
Oh, yeah.
And I was a huge fan. So were you.
Yeah.
It made it into...
Best Picture.
Yeah, best... Well,
Tom Daly, Best Picture.
It did?
I think so. That's bad.
I don't think it did. I don't believe it did, actually. Did it?
I think so.
Okay, but it got
recently.
It got 2 shoes, 2 laces from me.
Yes,
which is huge.
And
but the point is, you rated it, I think, an 85 or something like that. You got into the must watches. We really liked that, and we covered the original, was kind of cool as well. But speaking of the Tom Daly's, also we covered Sweet Smell of Success. So, folks, that was episode 57. It came out a year ago this week, and it was a heavy hitter. Sweet Smell of Success, All Quiet on the Western Front. We did Loving Vincent as well, which is a very great indie pick with our boy. So. If you want to check it out, episode 57, some heavy hitters in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Vin, so with that, thank you so much for watching all these Coppola films, Vin. We appreciate you stopping by here, folks at home. We'll run it down one more time. We have The Virgin Suicides with a 75%, Lost in Translation with a 78, Marie Antoinette with a 59, Somewhere with a 39, and Priscilla with a 69. Folks, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next week on the Daily Ratings Podcast. Hey, if you enjoyed the podcast, if you would, give us a good rating or tell a friend about us. If you're wondering if a film is worth a watch, or if you just had to see more movie ratings from Vince, be sure to stop by thedailyratings.com, where we have our ever-expanding catalog of films. Also, if you found value in the podcast or our site, become a producer and go to the donations tab on thedailyratings.com. You can donate whatever amount of value you feel you receive from us. We're looking to build this into something large and great, folks, but we want to be completely independent from those corporate sponsors. So we greatly appreciate any support from you all. So thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on the Daily Ratings Podcast.